Yeah, everybody make sure your lipstick's right.
Yeah.
Everybody but me.
Okay, so you can see what it will look like. I'm going to get out of that. And we are now recording, and you may begin.
Okay, it's about 5:03. We'll call the meeting to order. Agenda is in front of you. Stacy's got two resolutions, I think, to discuss. So first up is Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up from yesterday's discussion, and I was attending a meeting with the Southern Tier regional counties directly after the legislative meeting yesterday morning. And from that, we are in the process of putting forth the plan. I did share yesterday that on Tuesday we had met with the business community, and it was a very productive meeting. I will, at the time of yesterday's meeting, actually, I was thinking that things were going to unfold differently than it appears they're going to. The direction that I've gotten both from our peer counties as well as reinforced through the governor's rep on a call yesterday was that businesses will be required to develop their own reopening plans and to post them and abide by them, but the state will not be reviewing them. And there's a lot of confusion as to what local involvement will be. So I'll share with you both what the draft, and both of these are drafts, but the draft regional plan and then the draft Schuyler plan, which certainly, while I'm biased, I think it's much better. Kristen has put a yeoman's effort between Tuesday afternoon and about 20 minutes ago in putting together the Schuyler plan. But I will show you first what's, and I'm going to have to change documents. Let's see here. Okay, can everybody, are you seeing the
Yes,
draft Southern Tier region?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yep, just popped up.
Okay, great. This is what was distributed this afternoon for comment among the counties. It's pretty straightforward. It deals largely with the 12 bullet points that the governor has indicated need to be satisfied before we will be eligible for reopening. And the interpretation was, at this juncture, that's all that's required of the state. So that's what this plan does. And I won't go through the whole thing with you, but it basically, pretty simply puts forward how we meet each one of the parameters that have been outlined by the governor. CDC guidelines, the priority industries for reopening, and precautions, testing and tracking, all of the things we talked about yesterday. Basically, it was all compiled by, submitted by each county and compiled for the region. The yellow are what I've sent in as my suggested revisions to the plan and some strikeouts on that. Not a lot, but so that's what it's some iteration of this will be submitted ideally tomorrow, well in advance of the deadline of the 15th. So I'll move from that to share with you the okay, hang on. Okay, the plan that Kristen has been working on with Judy Cherry, and we've been revising to conform with what we understand it to be the current guidelines. So this is the Schuyler plan, and again, it's not done yet. When it's fully tweaked, we'll send this out as well. Although this is really at this point still, I guess, an internal document, and we will be working with the business community to talk about using this, if nothing else, as a resource document to help with businesses that have specific questions or more challenges than others in opening. So, but as you can see from this, it's much more detail in terms of identifying and defining the phases themselves. Kristen, I think, and I'm just looking at this since I just got it, but on the phase one retail, I believe that's only curbside. I think most of the other stuff in here is phase two for retail. But so we may have to modify that. Professional services.
I pulled the NAICS codes to figure out who was in each category. It appears that's how the governor decided.
Right. But that we need to differentiate. Again, that, as I said, it needs fine tuning, but I think you can see that it's very well put together, very, a professional document. And then from there, specific steps, that all businesses should take, and then going into both the further defining, each one of those phases. I think it will be a very useful document to any business that avails themselves of it. And again, we still need more, fine tuning of the document, but I just wanted to share it with you to give you a sense, number one, of what we're working on. Number two, more importantly, to emphasize the priority, the urgency that we're placing on this in order to be prepared, so at the earliest possible moment to start opening up our economy again. So this is, just to keep you abreast of what's going on. As things are finalized, I'll share them with the legislature, and also we'll be working to distribute this to the business community as well. And public health will also be involved, and that's about the end of it at that point. So really just wanted to share with you, it was a little bit of a different twist to the meeting after, with the other counties yesterday. I'm not sure I'm in complete agreement, but nevertheless, this is the direction we're going in. And if nothing else, we will be prepared to open in to whatever degree that we're able to. And as you've all seen and are well aware, this does change. It's a very fluid situation, and we may get different directives in the next hour, let alone days. So that was just kind of an overview, since you were meeting today anyways, and this is timely in the development of this. Just wanted to share that with you, see if you have any comments or questions.
I would really ask that we have hopefully a week before this gets distributed publicly or so, at least 2 or 3 days to digest this as legislative members, because I can imagine we're going to be getting questions immediately. So Absolutely. This is something that needs, I just need a little time with.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, Mark, my goal is to have it pretty well finished by the end of the day tomorrow, or like midday Monday, so that we can get it out to you.
Okay. And then the aim is to get it for public distribution next week, because isn't this starting the 15th or something like that? The
15th is the target date. That's when, and the governor hasn't issued any unpause orders yet. It's expected that will be coming in the next day or days. But right now, this is an expectation, but there's been nothing officially by way of executive order on this. But we're all, at the governor's direction, preparing for pause to be relaxed on the 15th for those counties that qualify. Our plan at a minimum shows that we meet the criteria, and then we are ready. We still need to get the blessing of the state to be able to move forward. So hopefully the regional plan gets submitted tomorrow, and we get feedback from the state by early next week as well, because that could change things as well. So there's, as has been the case all along, a lot of unknowns with this.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. The 8-county region,
Mhm.
each county is going to submit their own plan for their county?
No,
No.
there are no, the state is not receiving any plans other than the regional plan. This is a guidance document. We originally had thought this would be a regulatory type document that, so we would have uniform standards in all of our businesses. It doesn't appear that that's going to be the case, but I don't think it changes the merit of the document, and certainly the use of it as a guidance document. But we will not be charged with enforcement. We are not required. In fact, we've been told not to submit plans, as good as they are. So I also acknowledging that there's still a lot of questions that have a "we'll get back to you" as an answer, and that's still being discussed, or orders will be forthcoming. So that's again, a lot may happen between now and Monday.
And just from looking quickly, from, being able to go through it, it seems this is a little more, less restrictive than the CDC guidelines that were rejected by the White House?
I don't think so, but Kristen, do you?
I don't think so. I think that in general we're recommending they follow the CDC guidelines in a lot of cases. As far as I know, the CDC didn't put a lot out around capacity and how to set up, bars and restaurants or your
We
construction
did
site.
make the decision to not set percentages as part of standards because there's so many variations between facilities. So the
Right.
social distancing is what we use as a metric, as opposed to cutting your capacity by 50 or 75%.
Right. Yeah. We say 6 feet apart for everything. And
Right.
we're utilizing sort of a phased in approach that each sort of business will go through versus just opening, that they'll start out with only 6 guests per table, and after a couple of weeks they can move to 8 and so on,
Right.
in hopes that it will really limit the need to go back to phase 0. That if we slowly do this first, just all in, it will help us in the long run.
Mhm. But now, like with the page that Tim has up now for the restaurants, I see in phase 1, it says the employees will use a face mask, but in phase 2, they won't?
Nope. So all of phase
Phase
guidelines
one, okay.
continue unless we tell you otherwise.
Right, okay.
So over in phase 2, you see guidelines unless noted below, and that's where the changes to how many guests or now you can have them stand at the bar or sit if they're 6 feet apart, things like that.
Right.
I know we discussed this yesterday, but I do have an email I received about 15 minutes ago from a church in Alpine wanting direction as to who to speak to about what they're supposed to be doing about reopening.
The governor?
Direct it to you, Tim?
Well, no, I don't have an answer. I think that may be a court issue even, but it'd be Empire State Development is the one promulgating all the regulations for any establishment. So I don't know I don't know where churches fall into this, to be honest with you.
But if it was something other than a church, a restaurant, a business, retail.
Yeah, I think at this point, we don't have answers to the questions because nothing's been approved yet.
Okay.
This is just in a proposal phase. We cannot supersede the state, as we're all aware. So we're still awaiting direction from the state.
So just let them know we're still waiting direction from the state. And they can contact Empire State Development and give them a phone.
The Empire State Development is the one that set all of the requirements and deemed what's essential, what's not essential, what can open and what can't. So
Okay.
I guess they would be the authority. I can't guarantee you'll get an answer from them, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
So,
I have another question about in phase 4, the education.
mhm.
Because I was looking through the CDC stuff, and at least they were only requiring that the teachers wear masks, but there were things around trying to kind of keep classrooms separated as much as possible and closing down common areas. Do we have anything like that in there, or
We don't, and we're awaiting direction on that. And yesterday, the governor implied that classrooms were no longer necessary. So the tele education and even telehealth to a degree are unknowns at this point.
okay?
Yeah, I didn't want to include anything at this point that we weren't really sure on how to give good guidance around.
Well, especially not to lock in things that are more restrictive than necessary.
Right.
Yeah, and when you guys get it, I think you'll find a lot of these are pretty reasonable recommendations that we're sort of saying this is at minimum what you should do, but you might want to go above and beyond this. And we've seen a few businesses give us their initial thoughts, and they are more than what we're recommending.
Ideally, we make it so that
Question,
everybody can comply. Yes.
yeah, we're seeing all these protocols for businesses opening and all that. When is our county government going to be open? When's the local county government going to be allowed to open so that we are no longer meeting on Zoom?
Right now, it's really driven by the 50% reduction mandate by the governor, which expires next week. We're waiting to see what gets mandated by the state on that. But that's really, and then I would imagine that we'll reopen on a very careful fashion as well. We're not just going to open the doors and bring the public back in, without taking the same precautions that businesses are required to take. So, but those will be discussions that will have to take place.
Okay.
And somewhat related to the regulatory discussion, and Stephen, you may already be aware of this, but the open meeting law executive order expires today. And there has been no renewal of that executive order as of this afternoon. So, so for whatever that's worth. Any questions on that? And but I again just wanted to, since we had the opportunity to meet today, share with you the progress that we've made, and it's been substantial. I'm like I said, our goal is to certainly not be an impediment to getting businesses back open, and do everything we can to do it as soon as is legally possible. So, Kristen, anything you want to add?
No, I think our another goal is to just make sure that we're not opening and closing businesses on a
That's
weekly
true.
basis,
Right.
because that becomes a real detriment to their overall bottom line. So I think we just want to be cautious how we walk back into this.
No, I think that's very important, just because if this looks like it's moving successfully, you're going to see people putting events back in place in a reorganized fashion, but having to cancel them a second time would be a tremendous problem.
Well, Tim and Kristen, thanks a lot. Looks like a great job so far.
Thanks.
Very good. When, to echo Mark's question, approximately when are we going to be able to digest this, have it in our hand?
Hopefully by Monday.
Good. That'll work. Okay, Tim, anything else?
Not on that. I do have something to add at the end of the agendas, updates on the
Okay.
financial status.
We should,
Stacy, you got some resolutions?
excuse me, I can
Well,
interrupt. Tim,
Item number 2 is,
Carl,
I'm sorry, Stephen?
I can interrupt for a second. Tim, Stacy, Carl, if the open meeting suspension is not extended after today, the 4 of us should talk about how we're going to conduct the meeting on Monday.
That's a good point.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, we'll see what, it may be that this evening it gets extended.
Right,
So-
because there are still ways to do it, through social distancing with video. But
Right. Right.
So we should plan on talking about that tomorrow.
Yep, sure.
Thanks.
Right. My question would be though, is if you do try, doesn't that mean you're going to have to move a different venue just because you can't really, does open meetings law allow you to limit let's say that you can fit, say, 8 public in that room with social distancing. Are you allowed to say just the first 8 people who show?
That's one of the things we're going to want to talk about tomorrow. I don't think we want to try to plot every eventuality today. There are provisions under the existing open meetings law when it's unamended to allow for video conferencing. And we may have to abide by those. So,
And I suspect that this will be
Okay.
redone before then. I don't think it was intended to let it expire.
It looks like it
Let's-
might have gotten extended under today's executive order.
Okay, so it's,
That
Well,
came
let's
out.
let it sort out and
I'm
we'll
not
get,
sure. Under 27,
email
it
out
looks like it
tomorrow or
could have
Monday.
gotten extended.
okay, that would make sense.
okay, Stacy, how about park outdoor advertising?
Stephen and Tammy Waite worked with the contractor, Park Outdoor Advertising of New York. They did negotiate a 60-day termination clause upon written notice prior to an advertisement. And that has been modified in the contract. Stephen has approved of it. And on the second page of your agenda is the resolution with that added language in bold. I'm proposing, since this did come through the jurisdictional committee, you tabled it. If the Human Services Committee and Mike is willing to sponsor the resolution, that I would put it back on the agenda for Monday night before I post it tomorrow.
Well, I'm certainly in agreement to put it back on the agenda.
Okay,
Good,
do that.
we'll see it Monday night then.
Yes. And then the item number 3, Kristen happens to be on this meeting. The advertising for sealed bids for the redevelopment of Clute Park does require a resolution authorizing advertising for sealed bids. And we do need to do a local legal notice in our legal newspaper. Stephen and Kristen and I have been working diligently on reviewing the bid spec, and Stephen drafting the legal notice, helping me. What I need from you is that you're all okay with me sending it to the Review and Express tomorrow prior to you adopting the resolution Monday night, authorizing said advertisement for it to be in next Wednesday's publication. Okay with that?
I'm
Comments?
good with it.
I'm fine with it.
Anybody opposed?
I'm good with it.
If you have any
Okay,
I
Chris,
appreciate
put it
it,
on
and
for
I
Monday night.
apologize for not getting it on my agenda. That was my fault. Sorry.
Well, you did mention it yesterday that it was going to be, but
Yeah, she mentioned it and then sent me the stuff for legal notice, and that's when we realized we needed to do a resolution. So we're working out.
When are the bids due back in?
They'll be due June 11th.
Thank you.
Anything else for Stacy? Stacy, do you have anything else?
Nope, that's all I had.
Kim, I guess we're back to you for a,
Okay, just by way of update, you should have received this yesterday. Actually, it was a link in a NISAC bulk distribution. I think all county officials got it. If you clicked on the link, this is what you would have gotten. I won't bore you with the report, but I will share with you the Schuyler specific impact. I'll bring up a different document. This is what I had mentioned last week, that ISAC was developing county-specific data with projections based on the most current status, both with the state budget as well as federal action, and looking at national data and statewide data relative to sales tax. So let me bring up the next one. Okay. So you're seeing the PowerPoint?
yep.
yeah,
Okay. I'm sure you noticed that we've got our first distribution of April sales tax today. We were down 31%. Not totally surprised, although that was, hopefully, it's not a sign of the trend, but it may very well be. That, and coupled with the report that we received last night, has caused me to certainly do a deeper dive looking at our fiscal situation. So I wanted just to share with you at this point where we are based on, and again, these are projections, they're estimates from NISAC. It also, none of this accounts for receiving federal assistance or use of reserves. And the situation is very fluid. There are many unknowns at this point. So even though the numbers are not great, I want to emphasize the message. It's not time to panic yet. But here's the projections that are specific to Schuyler County. And this is the mild scenario, looking at sales tax. And again, this represents an 11% reduction in sales tax. We started off with the first payment at a 31% decline. That also includes the full AIM payment for the villages taken out of this month's payment, or this first payment. Again, cautioning that it's only one of two payments for the month that have been received. It's far too early to draw any conclusions on that, but we'd be remiss to ignore it. The occupancy tax, which is largely a Chamber of Commerce revenue, is projected on mild scenario to be a 40% reduction. And these scenarios do take into account our tourism economy. That our impacts were larger, negatively larger than some of our surrounding counties because of what our economic base is. Gaming and OTB, almost a 40% reduction. In state aid, that's if the governor does a 20% reduction to local government, counties in particular, that's what it would mean to us. And all told, it would be a $3.2 million impact on our revenue streams. So moving from that to a severe scenario. And again, you'll see severe is closer to where we actually are on the sales tax front. That'd be a $3 million hit in sales tax. Occupancy, a 63% reduction. Gaming, a 60% reduction. State aid and the governor most recently has threatened a 50% reduction if federal aid isn't forthcoming. Well, that's what that would mean to us. So we go from a $3.2 million deficit to a $7.5 million deficit. So what have we done so far? And I also am confident that we've taken the appropriate action, actually more so than most. We were the first county to furlough staff. We've instituted a hiring freeze at the very beginning. We've suspended capital projects. That represents $1 million in itself. The furloughs and hiring freeze are another $500,000. And essential spending is all that's taking place now, and that which typically will have grant or reimbursement associated with it. So that's a very brief overview of where we're at. As I said, I don't put this up to alarm you or motivate any action, but I want you to be informed, and we'll continue to do that as we go through. Again, we don't take into account federal assistance, and I suspect that this is an all or nothing comparison, either all mild or all severe. I would project that on the sales tax, we're going to be trending more towards the severe side, but on the state aid, we will probably not, go to that extent. So, ballparking it, my budget analysis is I'm projecting a $4 to $5 million deficit. That is probably realistic, that we're going to have to address this year, and I think that we can. In fact, I know that we can. So I'm not that I'm not worried about it, but it's not like it wasn't expected either. So, but this, hopefully these numbers improve as time goes by. The quicker we recover, the better these numbers will be, and the smaller the delta will be. But just wanted to, break down the report that you received and personalize it more for our county. But in the report, it's got data for every county in the state, so you can see how we compare to others. But I just aggregated it, from all the tables that were in there, to boil it down for the county. So that being said, I know there was discussion yesterday, and we've talked about on the subject of furlough, the return of some staff. And at this time yesterday, I was thinking highway would probably be the first to come back. My strong recommendation is that we do not return any employees until at least June 1st, even though May 15th would be a potential return date after the first 30 days. But that would be up to the legislature on that. But I'm given these numbers, I'm not comfortable with, as much as we may need the work and even getting behind, our situation may pale in comparison to more dire straits coming down the road. So I still firmly believe that any money that we can proactively save now is going to help us down the road. So my recommendation is to continue the furloughs at least until June 1st.
Where do you guys stand on that? Comments?
I'm a little concerned on that, actually, in terms of highway, because it seems to me like the maintenance work that they would be doing, not the capital projects, but the maintenance stuff, actually has probably a higher payback, because if the stuff starts falling apart and we get behind again, that's going to cost us more. Tim, you're usually very proactive on that.
I am, and this just speaks to the dilemma that we have, and it is a severe situation. So at this point, while we're able to save money and not do it at the employee's expense, I realize that there is going to be a setback of some sort, but I think in the big picture, it will be worth it. I have discussed it with Ken before bringing it forward, and he understands and recognizes it. And we've talked about possibly bringing some of the seasonal mowing crew in after June 1st, And we'll just be scaling back. Instead, we may cut a project and just do the prep work this year, similar to what we did last year, and manage it that way. The good news is that I wouldn't say we're ahead of the game, but we're not in the hole any longer. And, the highway department has made great strides to, bring us back to where we should be. I think it's going to be a reality in that this is not a mandated cost, and this is one of the few areas that you do have discretion in, that controls are going to need to be put in place.
Tim,
Jim, where are you?
Who?
You, Jim.
Yes. My question was about the unemployment. What's the termination date for the receiving unemployment?
The end of July for the enhanced federal stimulus.
and
The
Tim,
state unemployment will continue beyond that?
Right, but we've made a commitment that we will not, our employees will be made whole. So if the federal stimulus ends at any point, we would bring staff back because of the moral obligation that we've committed to.
and what
But
percent of the highway crew is furloughed?
50%.
50.
And Tim, you're proposing to extend this out through what, June?
Well, right now, I think we need to look at it, in 2-week increments. We theoretically would have been bringing people back in highway in particular, the week after next. I just can't recommend that now.
Okay, but your proposal is then till June 1st or whatever payroll breaks there.
Yeah, nothing until June 1st. And I wanted to have this discussion before I, put it out to the department heads tomorrow, but
Well, is there anybody that isn't supportive of help taking us out to June 1st?
I'm good with it.
I'm not thrilled. The only reason why we're doing this is because they get paid more than on unemployment than they're making at work, and we have the lowest cases. We have everything in this county that's right, and I believe if we're going to keep these employees forever, then we should get them back to work as soon as we can. If we're not going to keep these employees forever, then let's make it official and get them laid off, and let the county reap the benefit of less employment, less payroll, less everything, and run on basically a austerity budget with minimal services that we deem unnecessary. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit, I think it may be short-sighted, that I think that we should develop some sort of a scenario for, well, I guess I would spend the period, I'm willing to support till June 1st, but we need to spend to analyze where we're going to get a source of operating funds because it just seems like putting off highway is one of those investments that is one of the ones that you don't want to put off because there's an absolutely a demonstrable cost down the road. This is a real capital cost. So I can't see if we can't get them back to get things accomplished required this season. That's going to be a problem, but I will support for now till June 1st.
Well, it gives us a 2-week peek at what kind of monies we're going to get, federal and state. We get a little bit better planning. We sure don't want to bring them back and then let them go.
Right.
Yeah,
So is there anybody
key point that
not in support of Tim's request?
Can anybody hear me?
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Anybody that's not good with it? Okay, we'll carry it forward then to June 1. I assume it's June 1. There
Well,
may be a payroll there.
there is no date. It just, all I'm saying is that it wouldn't be any earlier than June 1, and that's not to say that June 1 will be the date either.
Well, you got to come back to this board to
Yep.
after June 1.
Yep. Well, we'll have it. We'll continue the discussion certainly week by week, and as you pointed out, Carl, by this time next week, we should have a much better picture of what's going to happen at the federal level. We still are assured that there is. It's not a question of if, but when with federal assistance, but we still don't know what the details are and how it's going to be dispersed or what the amounts are. So, and we also.
Did you listen to? Yeah. Did you listen
Yes.
to Reed this morning?
Yes, I did.
Did you think that was encouraging or not?
Yeah, but it always is with the congressman, and he's he's been a champion for the local governments, and is well respected as a result of that. But then when you turn on the national news and hear either the president or the speaker saying something contrary to that, it just gives you a little concern, I guess. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but hopefully by this time next week we'll know what the federal action is, and we'll also know what the state response to budget adjustments will be by then.
Okay.
Now there's, as I said at the very beginning, there's too many unknowns, and we don't have any track record. And on the sales tax front, I will also say that even though we took a 30% dip in the first payment, we're still ahead of last year because of a 17% increase in the first quarter. So, we had a strong first quarter, and that's going to certainly help us. So it's not all gloom and doom, and there are opportunities for a bounce back here too. So this is not the time to be making any dramatic decisions. I mentioned this just to keep you informed.
Okay, what else you got, Jim?
That's all I have. I don't think you want any more.
Stacy, you got anything more?
Nope.
Okay, anybody have anything?
Tim,
Yeah,
I
I
have a
get-
question about the reopening again.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have an 8-county plan, but the governor's leaving it up to each region to craft it for their region.
Well, yes and no. The region is responsible for putting together a plan that allows them to reopen. Then it's going to be largely county specific and in many interpretations, business specific. Actually, the onus is on the businesses to develop a plan and to post it. When you ask questions, it's simple questions like, well, what if they don't and they open anyways? Or what if they post and they don't comply with it? There are no answers as to, other than it's local government's responsibility, but we're not able to develop regulations or anything like that. So my guess is that as we learn from the mistakes collectively around the state, there'll be guidance coming forth. But at this point, that's all the information that we have.
So they post the policy at the entrance to the business?
Well, that's what one interpretation is. The businesses are required to develop it and post it. Yeah, but again, I don't know enough about it still to see how it will be implemented.
So Tim, for further clarification then, the Schuyler launching plan that you and Kristen have been developing will be reviewed and approved or accepted by whom, other than the legislature?
Not actually, the legislature would be the reviewing body, but it's not something that needs to be approved.
Well, I hesitated to use the word approved, so
Yeah.
accepted by.
We're trying to go above and beyond and have something to help businesses be consistent, if nothing else. And surprisingly, the meeting we had with the business community and the business leaders, they were, typically you would think they don't want government telling them what to do. The message was quite the opposite. We want the rules to be the same for everybody. We want you to tell us what to do. And so I think the business community is anxious for that. but, and it makes it very difficult when it's inconsistent from business to business, especially as you're bringing in more tourists now. So we'll work through it, and hopefully we can use this document to help steer the implementation and compliance, I suppose, as well.
Right. I think generally that's going to have to be more of a social pressure than anything else to ensure that, especially when you've got organizations like the chamber and things like that who can act with a bully pulpit for their members, but we don't actually have any legal authority for enforcement here. We're responsible, but
Not really, although it depends on what the governor says on any given day. So we've been charged with enforcement of what the governor's orders are, but it's very difficult to even interpret what that means. So
right.
we're doing the best we can with it, but it's very frustrating.
I would agree. And until there's more clarity, anything that you actually do heavy-handed, it seems to me you may be lawsuit open, but that's to a legal authority to determine.
Yeah.
I just would advise us to act with caution.
And we are.
Good point, Mark.
Anything else?
I got a question for Tim on it, but it's on an unrelated matter. So if people want to drop off, that's fine too.
Go ahead. Ask it.
So I was talking to somebody from Siemens today, Siemens Smart Infrastructure, but which of the counties are in the STN Fujitsu study?
Tioga, Steuben, Chemung, Schuyler, and Yates. No, I'm sorry, Yates isn't. Yates, no, yeah, Yates. I'm sorry, Yates isn't. Yes.
Okay. I thought you said that Chemung was doing their own. They had.
They changed their mind.
Oh, okay.
They're back in.
Tioga, Steuben, Chemung, and Schuyler.
Yes.
And I knew we had talked about Yates at one point, but Yates is not in this.
No, Yates is in.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Yates is in.
Schuyler, Yates. Okay. And when are the results on that actually due? Because I know you had said that they were finalizing.
I believe, actually, Kristen's not on. She's been representing me on that for the last 2 months. I believe they're finalizing the report. We were attempting to schedule a meeting to review a draft. That hasn't happened yet, but it should be imminent.
Okay. And last thing is imminent. Last thing is as far as the HVAC on the human services.
Mm-hmm.
That actually we received an open bids on that. Was that awarded, or what is the status?
Well, yes, they're doing Mill Creek as we speak.
Okay.
The rooftop units, I'm not entirely. I don't know that that's been. I think that is part of the project as well.
Okay. Because this person from Siemens was talking about was saying that we should look at something called an energy performance contract as a possible way of financing.
That's what we've got at the college.
Yeah.
Well, they're the same ones that did it at the college.
Yeah. At the college, yeah. Yeah, I don't know that we ever looked at that, Mark, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, and my question would be, is that a way when we get looking into the middle school, whether that may be a way to handle some piece of our financing end of it? I'm going to explore further with her.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I may be wrong, but I thought that there needed to be a fairly good scale in order to make it worthwhile for them. But whether one building would be enough or not, I don't know. But
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the building, but the project's about, well, we're looking at close to $1 million for the HVAC piece of that?
No,
or
no, 500 to 600.
500 to 600, okay.
Yeah, that isn't a bad program, Mark. It's going pretty well at the college. I'll tell you better in a few months whether we balance the payments with the savings or not, but
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see as well, because it sounded really good, but I'm anxious to see when they have a year under their belt or 2 years under their belt, how it worked out. But the college would be a great,
yeah.
great example.
Well,
Absolutely.
you can have all that data. That's not a problem.
And,
And
okay, sorry. Continue.
Mark's got some contacts in there, and I know the Siemens guys pretty well. So if you want to do it, I did that contract or part of that contract with them for Corning.
Well, and
Anything else?
the other thing that
Mark?
she was saying was that supposedly when they execute one of these things, Siemens profit actually comes back into the local community for supporting technical education. That in the case of the college, it went into the STEM center itself.
Right.
For the,
Yeah.
but say for STEM education in the high school or things like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, they're doing education there now with our students. They aren't doing it because we're closed right now, but they did up until the virus hit us. So you get, one, you get the project done. Two, the savings tends to take care of the loan they give you. And three, they run, in this case, our students through the programs.
right. So
Which is good for everybody.
the discussion here was if there was a way that it would work for the county or something like that,
Sure.
county could make those savings. That those savings could be funneled through the school or through Scoped for doing lifelong education stuff.
You
Is where
do
my mind was going.
sponsor apprenticeships.
Yep, absolutely.
That would do it. Okay, can we end
And
this?
just one last thing, the conflict that I had with my 4 o'clock meetings has been eased up. I no longer have a Tuesday and Thursday 4 o'clock with NISAC. Now I only have Tuesday. So if you wanted to go back to a 4 o'clock meeting on Thursdays, I can do it. I'm comfortable either way, but I just wanted to make you aware that at least on this particular day, my calendar looks better than it did. So
I like the 5s a lot because it pushes it for me to the end of the workday. But if other people it's better at 4, I can do that too.
like I said, either's fine with me. I just wanted to make you aware. So we can keep it the same unless you tell me otherwise.
Is there anybody that doesn't want to keep it at 5? Okay, that's your answer.
Okay. And I'm going to stop recording now. And I'm stopping the